Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English World channel, your English learning channel. I'm Sarah.
Hey, Sarah. And hello to everyone listening. It feels really nice to be here again. These quiet starts always feel relaxing.
Yes, they do. Every episode begins slowly, just like a real conversation.
Exactly. No rush, no pressure. Just two people talking.
And if you're listening right now, you can just relax. Maybe you're at home, maybe you're traveling, or maybe you're working quietly.
Wherever you are, just listen comfortably. You don't need to understand everything.
Little by little, English becomes clearer.
That's true. Listening regularly helps the brain recognize patterns.
So, David, how was your day yesterday?
Yesterday was actually quite calm. In the evening, I was sitting by the window and reading a book.
That sounds peaceful. What book were you reading?
It was a small travel book. While I was reading, I started remembering a trip I took last year.
Oh, interesting. So while you were reading, you were also remembering a trip.
Exactly. And that sentence we just said gives us a clue about today's topic.
Yes. Today, we're talking about something very useful in English.
The past continuous tense.
Past continuous helps us describe what was happening at a certain moment in the past.
For example, I said, I was reading a book.
And you also said, I was sitting by the window.
Those actions were happening in the past, and they continued for some time.
Exactly. Past continuous often describes an action that was in progress.
Like when someone says, she was walking in the park.
Or, we were talking on the phone.
These sentences describe actions that were happening at that moment.
Sometimes we use this tense to create a story.
Yes, especially when something happened suddenly.
For example, I was walking in the street when it started raining.
That structure appears very often in English stories.
So today, we'll explore this tense through simple conversation.
We're not focusing on grammar rules.
Instead, we'll talk about everyday situations.
Moments from yesterday, small memories, and simple stories.
While we talk, you'll hear past continuous sentences naturally.
Just listen to the rhythm of the conversation.
Notice how we describe actions that were happening in the past.
And slowly, the pattern will become familiar.
So let's continue our conversation.
And let's start talking about what people were doing yesterday.
Yesterday evening felt very calm to me. When I looked outside my window, people were moving slowly through the street.
That sounds peaceful. What were people doing?
Well, one man was walking his dog along the sidewalk.
I can imagine that scene. The dog was probably looking around everywhere.
Yes, it was. The dog was sniffing the ground, and the man was smiling quietly.
Those small moments feel very real. What else was happening?
Across the street, a woman was talking on her phone while she was waiting for a bus.
Was the bus stop busy?
Not really. Only a few people were standing there.
So they were just waiting.
Yes. One person was checking his phone. Another person was looking at the sky.
I like observing those small, everyday scenes. Sometimes when I sit in a cafe, I notice similar things.
Oh, really? What were people doing the last time you sat in a cafe?
Let me think. Yesterday afternoon, I was sitting in a small coffee shop near my office.
And what was happening around you?
A group of students was studying at the table next to me. They were reading books and writing notes.
That sounds like a focused environment.
Yes, and near the window, a young woman was typing on her laptop.
Was she working?
I think so. She was wearing headphones and she was concentrating deeply.
Sometimes cafes feel like quiet workspaces.
Exactly. While I was drinking my coffee, I was also watching people.
Observing people is interesting. You start noticing what everyone is doing.
At one moment, the barista was preparing drinks very quickly.
Was the cafe busy?
Yes, it was becoming busy. People were coming in and the door was opening and closing constantly.
That must have created a lively atmosphere.
It did. Some people were talking with friends, some were reading quietly.
It's interesting how many things are happening at the same time.
That's exactly when we often use past continuous.
Right. We describe actions that were happening at the same moment.
For example, people were drinking coffee.
Students were studying.
The barista was preparing drinks.
And all those actions were happening during the same period of time.
Sometimes, when we describe yesterday, we naturally use these kinds of sentences.
Like when someone asks, "What were you doing yesterday evening?"
You might answer, I was watching a movie.
Or, "I was talking with my family."
Or even, I was just relaxing at home.
These sentences sound very natural in English.
Yes, because they describe something that was in progress in the past.
And listeners may notice how often this tense appears in storytelling.
Whenever we describe what people were doing, past continuous appears naturally.
Exactly. It helps paint a picture of the moment.
And the more you hear it, the easier it becomes to understand.
So while you're listening, just notice the pattern.
Actions that were happening in the past.
Slowly, your mind starts recognizing how English flows.
And that's how learning happens.
Not through pressure, but through repeated exposure.
Through listening and through calm conversation.
All right, David, let's continue our discussion.
Yes. Next, let's talk about something interesting that happened while we were traveling.
You know, David, talking about what people were doing yesterday reminds me of a trip I took last year.
Oh, really? Where did you go?
I visited a small coastal town. It was quiet and the weather was beautiful.
That sounds like a perfect place to relax. What was happening when you arrived?
When I arrived at the train station, people were moving slowly through the platform.
Were many travelers waiting there?
Yes, some travelers were carrying suitcases, and a few tourists were looking at maps.
I can imagine the atmosphere. Stations always feel full of movement.
Exactly. One family was talking loudly, while another couple was quietly waiting for their train.
And what were you doing at that moment?
I was standing near the entrance and looking around the station.
Were you trying to find your way?
Yes, I was reading the signs carefully and trying to understand where to go.
Traveling in a new place can feel exciting.
It really can. While I was walking through the station, I noticed something interesting.
What happened?
A street musician was playing a guitar near the exit.
Oh, that must have created a beautiful atmosphere.
It did. People were stopping for a moment and listening to the music.
Were they enjoying it?
Yes, some people were smiling and a few children were dancing.
That sounds like a lovely moment.
It really was. While the musician was playing, I was walking toward the town center.
What was the town like?
The streets were narrow and small shops were opening their doors.
Were many people outside?
Yes, some locals were talking near the bakery, and a few tourists were taking photos.
It sounds like the town was waking up.
Exactly. The sun was shining, and people were starting their day.
What were you doing next?
I was walking toward the beach.
Was the beach busy?
Not very busy, but a few people were already sitting on the sand.
What were they doing?
One couple was reading a book together, and another person was watching the waves.
That sounds peaceful.
It was. While I was walking along the shore, a group of children was playing near the water.
Were they building sandcastles?
Yes, they were laughing and building a huge sandcastle.
Those moments make a place feel alive.
They do. At the same time, a fisherman was preparing his boat nearby.
Was he getting ready to go to sea?
Yes, he was organizing his nets and checking his equipment.
It's interesting how many things can happen at the same time in one place.
Exactly. That's why past continuous feels so useful.
Because it helps us describe what was happening in the background of a moment.
Yes, it creates a picture in the listener's mind.
For example, you can imagine the beach, the children playing, and the fishermen working.
All those actions were happening together.
And that's the beauty of storytelling.
Exactly. When we describe the past like this, the story feels more vivid.
It feels like the listener is there.
That's why people love telling travel stories.
Because they can recreate those moments.
And past continuous helps us show what was happening during that time.
It paints the background of the story.
Exactly. And the more we listen to stories like this, the easier it becomes to understand the tense.
Learning through stories always feels more natural.
Yes, it feels like real communication.
All right, Sarah, let's continue our conversation.
Next, let's talk about a moment when something unexpected happened while people were doing their usual activities. You know, David, sometimes the most memorable moments happen when something unexpected interrupts a normal situation.
That's very true. Those moments often turn into interesting stories.
Exactly. Actually, something like that happened to me a few months ago.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, one evening, I was walking through the city park after work.
Was the park busy?
Yes, people were enjoying the evening. Some families were sitting on benches, and children were playing near the fountain.
That sounds like a peaceful scene.
It was. A group of friends was talking loudly near the trees, and a man was jogging slowly along the path.
And what were you doing?
I was listening to music and walking toward the lake in the park.
The lake must have looked beautiful at sunset.
It did. The sky was turning orange, and the water was reflecting the colors.
I can imagine that moment very clearly.
While I was walking near the lake, something unusual happened.
What was it?
Suddenly, a loud noise came from the other side of the park.
Really? What caused the noise?
At first, I didn't know. People were looking around and trying to understand what happened.
Were people worried?
Not exactly worried, but they were definitely curious.
So, what was happening at that moment?
While everyone was looking toward the sound, a group of teenagers was running across the grass.
Were they chasing something?
Yes, they were chasing a big, colorful balloon.
A balloon?
Yes, apparently a street performer was holding several balloons, and one of them escaped.
Ah, so the balloon flew away.
Exactly. The balloon was floating above the trees, and the teenagers were running and laughing.
That must have looked funny.
It really did. People who were sitting on the benches started laughing too.
Sometimes small, unexpected things create joyful moments.
Yes. While the teenagers were running after the balloon, a small dog suddenly joined them.
The dog started chasing the balloon too?
Yes! The dog was jumping excitedly and running in circles.
That must have made everyone smile.
It did. People who were walking in the park stopped to watch the scene.
So the park suddenly became lively.
Exactly. Everyone was watching the balloon while it was floating higher and higher.
Did someone catch it?
No, the balloon kept rising until it disappeared into the sky.
Well, that's one way to lose a balloon.
Yes, but the moment was actually very funny.
And memorable.
Exactly. When I was leaving the park later, people were still talking about the balloon.
Small moments like that often become the stories we remember.
That's true. And when we describe moments like this, past continuous appears naturally.
Because we describe what people were doing while something happened.
For example, people were sitting, children were playing, and teenagers were running.
All those actions were happening at the same time.
And then one small event connected everything together.
That's what makes a story interesting.
Exactly. The background actions create the scene.
And the unexpected moment moves the story forward.
So, when you hear past continuous, think of it as describing the background of a story.
It shows what people were doing before something happened.
And that's why it appears so often in storytelling.
Especially when we describe interesting moments from the past.
All right, David, let's move toward the final part of our conversation.
Yes, let's reflect a little on how we talk about past moments in everyday English.
You know, David, when we look back at these stories, something interesting becomes clear.
What do you mean?
Most of the time, when people describe the past, they don't only talk about what happened.
That's true. They also describe what was happening around that moment.
Exactly. They describe the background.
Like when you told the story about the park.
Yes, people were sitting on benches, children were playing near the fountain, and the sun was setting behind the trees.
All of those actions created the atmosphere of the scene.
And that's exactly what past continuous helps us do.
It helps us describe actions that were happening at the same time in the past.
When we say, "I was walking through the park," the listener imagines the moment.
And when we add, people were talking and children were playing,
The picture becomes clearer.
stories feel more alive.
Exactly. That's why past continuous appears so often in storytelling.
Writers use it, speakers use it, and everyday conversations use it too.
Because life is full of moments where many things happen at the same time.
A person was walking, someone else was talking, and another person was watching the sunset.
All those actions were happening together.
And past continuous connects them naturally.
If you're learning English, you don't need to memorize long rules.
Just notice how people describe what was happening in the background of a story.
The more you listen, the easier it becomes to recognize this pattern.
And slowly, you start using it yourself.
For example, you might say, "I was watching a movie last night."
Or, we were talking when the phone rang.
Or even something simple like, "I was walking home when it started raining."
Those sentences feel very natural in English.
Exactly. And they appear in everyday conversations.
So the best way to learn them is simply to listen to real conversations.
And maybe share small stories from your own life.
Talk about what you were doing yesterday.
Talk about what people were doing around you.
Even simple moments can become interesting stories.
Like sitting in a cafe, walking in the park, or traveling to a new place.
Those experiences create natural opportunities to use past continuous.
And little by little, your confidence grows.
You begin to speak more comfortably.
Because English becomes familiar.
And storytelling becomes easier.
So remember, learning a language is a gradual process.
You learn step by step.
One conversation, one story, one moment at a time.
We're really glad you joined us today.
Thank you for spending this calm time with us.
Keep listening.
Keep practicing.
And keep sharing your stories.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone.